Welcome to Literary Libations with Librarians. And this week, because January is International Creativity Month, we are going to be sharing books that inspire our creativity. If you're interested in getting your hands on any of the titles that we talk about, they will appear on your screen as we share them, and it'll also show the various formats that those titles are available in through the Monroe County Library System. The quickest way to get them is probably to call your local branch of the Monroe County Library System and speak to the staff there, and they will be more than happy to assist you. If you'd like to do it yourself and you're interested in a physical version of a title, a hardcover paperback, an audiobook on CD, or a large print, you can do that through our online catalog, and the web address is there on your screen. If you're interested in a digital format, the Monroe County Library System offers two different platforms. There is Overdrive, which you may also hear referred to as Libby, which is the name of the Overdrive app. And Overdrive provides downloadable ebooks, audiobooks, and also just recently now also provides magazines. Hoopla offers ebooks, downloadable audiobooks, and also movies, music, and graphic novels. And because this is Creativity Week, and we got creative with some of our title choices, one of us is going to be sharing some movies that inspire their creativity. And there is another platform that's not listed on there, but it only offers movies. And that is called Canopy, with a K, K-A-N-O-P-Y. So if you see Canopy movie listed as one of the available formats, you just go to the Canopy app, register with your library card number, and then look for the movie that we talk about. And the great thing about Hoopla and Canopy is that there is never a wait for any of the titles that you see on those platforms. And with us this week, my name's Jennifer Graneski. I'm from the Dundee Branch Library. And our introductory question this week is, what is your favorite creative pastime? And this was a little tough for me because I don't do a lot of creative things. I don't feel that is one of my strengths. Nobody wants to see my stick people. So I interpreted creativity as something you create. So probably my favorite creative pastime would be baking. I do enjoy baking. I love looking at different cookbooks. I don't love cooking as much. I like baking because I really am sort of a by the book sort of person. So I like baking in that it's like you do this and it's going to turn out well. So that's my favorite creative pastime, like cookies and cakes and candy and all the yummy stuff. So that's mine. Also with us this week, we have Kristen Brown, who is a reference librarian at our Bedford branch. And what's your favorite creative pastime, Kristen?
So mine is painting. Before I went into library science, I was an elementary art teacher. And so when I was going to school for my bachelor's, painting was my concentration. So I started out in oils. Now I do mostly gouache or watercolor. But I also recently just got into like fibers, so weaving. So that would be, those are my pastimes.
Nice. I should have made you bring examples. All of you creative types, because I know Kansas and Regina are as well. I should have made you bring like examples to hold up. Thank you, Kristen. Also with us this week is Frances Randall, who is a clerk at the South Rockwood branch. And what's your favorite creative pastime, Frances?
My favorite creative pastime is actually drawing. I do a little painting, very, very, very little. And in the last 10 years, I started doing artwork that is made with things that I've found. And that can be anything. It can be something I've picked up off the ground. It can be things I get at auctions. And I put them into boxes. My favorite artist is Joseph Cornell, and he worked primarily with stuff like that. I also do like to do a lot of baking. Cooking's okay, but I think baking's a little more creative. Plus, I love dessert. So.
Me too. I'm a dessert girl. Thank you, Frances. Also with us this week is Regina Manning, a reference librarian at the Ellis branch. And what's your favorite creative pastime, Regina?
Well, I have a couple. I'm into some sewing. I do like to sew. And I collect a lot of things, a lot of ephemera. So I like to do types of collage and put things together, found things, and figure out new ways to put things together. And a fun thing that our family does is that we listen to a lot of music, so we'll pick different themes to create playlists, and so we'll all contribute, and so that turns into a lot of fun, and that like taps into a lot of different areas. So that's a lot of fun.
Oh, that's neat. And when I was thinking creativity, I don't know why music didn't even hit me. I, again, am not musical, but my son is playing the oboe this year. He's played the clarinet since 3rd grade, and he just started the oboe, and it just blows my mind. I can't even read music. And so people who are musical amaze me. So thank you. And that would be awesome. Have playlists from your family. That's great.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Oh, yeah.
And also with us this week is Jen McCarty, a reference librarian, also at the Ellis branch. And what's your favorite creative pastime, Jen?
Hey, we're going to talk about creativity. I'm not super creative. I also like to bake, and that's something I've gotten kind of into, in that my youngest son has some food allergies. So for like baked goods are usually out. I can't go to a bakery anymore and buy a birthday cake. So I've gotten fairly decent. Okay, I'm not great, but I've gotten way better at decorating. And so I don't always love it. Sometimes it's really frustrating, but it is something I have been doing a lot more of. And like we just did, we just had a birthday, and he had a Baby Yoda birthday cake, and it turned out not bad.
It turned out not bad.
I mean, I was happy with it. He was happy with it.
Aww.
So that's something I have been doing a lot more of, and I'm enjoying, and I'm slowly buying, all the fun little tools. So getting into the world of cake decorating.
That reminds me of that show, Nailed It. I feel like you should be on that show. Like
my boys love that show, and they're always like, "Mom, you could do this. Mom, you could do this." And I'm like, "You see what I make, kids." I probably could do this because,
yeah, nailed it. But they give them, so if you've seen Nailed It, like literally they're giving them impossible tasks.
Yes.
They're like,
yeah.
Do this professional level work in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You should be able to do that.
I can't remember the host's name on that show, but she's like my favorite.
Nicole Byers.
Oh, I love her.
Oh, yeah.
But be aware, folks, if you listen to her podcast, don't listen with your kids.
No, she is not.
Make sure you check it out first, because it's adult content. And all right, let's see. Let's have Kristen kick us off this week, sharing your books that inspire your creativity.
Okay, so the first one that I'll start with is called Steal Like an Artist. And this book I actually read when I was in school, and it's by Austin Kleon. And I chose this book more from like a visual artist point of view. So all of this stuff might not apply to anybody's creativity in general. It mostly applies to like my visual creativity interests. But this is a really fun book. It reads like a workshop. It's really easygoing, and he gives you tips about how to foster your creativity. The biggest thing obviously is kind of in the title, Steal Like an Artist. And so one of the big things that I feel like a lot of artists feel like as students or when you're graduating from school is you need to find your style, and you kind of have this pressure that you feel like you need to reinvent the wheel, and you need to come out with something that's original, right? So like creativity, the technical definition is something that you create that's original, that's organic, that's yours, but nothing exists that way. That's not, nobody's creativity just like pops in their head. Everything that we do is based off of something that we are impacted by or something that gives us insight. And he really highlights that in this book, and I really appreciate that point. And so some of the stuff that he talks about is he gives you suggestions on how to navigate through the process of creativity. So one of the suggestions he has is put pictures up of the people that influence you, put up their artwork, put up things that you appreciate around you, because that's going to foster your creativity. And when I was like rereading this book, I thought, what? I must be like subconsciously doing this from, 10 years ago when I read this, because literally at my desk, I have pictures of everybody like Jason Reynolds to Frida Kahlo. And in my studio, I have all that stuff up too. So it does really help me foster my creativity. And he talks about keeping a journal, sketching regularly, which is something they constantly tell you in art school. Like they're like, you should be going out and sketching every day. And I had a hard time with that, but I can totally see how having that organic experience and just stopping when things influence you would help your creativity. And it also talks about the different ways of stealing like an artist. Like some theft is good, some theft is not good. Like plagiarism, not cool. But looking at the way that somebody creates something, honing in on what you like about that, and then putting that into your own thing is really what he's trying to get you to do. So it's totally okay to copy off of people as long as you're taking it and forming it into something that still represents you, and you're not obviously doing the exact same as an artist. So that book I highly recommend for anybody who wants to be creative but maybe doesn't know where to start. It really takes the pressure off of you and helps you realize like there's tons of influences out there. It's okay to take it, run with it, figure out what you like, and that's the main goal. So the next two I have are the other media formats. I have really hard time figuring out books for this. I do check out a lot of how-to books, like a lot of how-to like knit and sew, and I do enjoy those, but I don't think those really foster my creativity. So there are a lot of films out there that I like to watch, and TED Talks. I appreciate TED Talks that really kind of get my creative juices flowing. So the second one I have is Beautiful Losers. This was a documentary that came out in 2008, and it's just about a group of artists who weren't really in mainstream art. They didn't like the concept of what art was, and yet through their journey of becoming artists, they ended up kind of becoming what they didn't like. So, but in like a positive way. So they kind of broke down the barriers of what traditional art was seen as. And so it's just them having interviews and conversations about how they became artists, what influenced them. You know, they reference punk rock a lot, skateboarding, doing street art, graffiti, things like that. One of the artists, most of the artists were unfamiliar to me except for Shepard Fairey, and he did the iconic Obama Hope poster, and he's still doing a lot of like these really iconic, open, diverse posters about what's happening today. And so I appreciate his artwork. But yeah, it's basically just a whole bunch of artists sitting down talking about their lives. And there's just something about the way that they talk and reminisce and how they met that really, every time I watch it, I'm just like, yeah, man, like I want to be a part of that, and I want to create art like that. And while they're having these interviews with the artists, it cuts to them preparing for this massive art show. And so they have this warehouse and they're just creating huge like wall images, painting right on the walls and everything. So the artists in that movie are ridiculously talented and amazing. So I highly suggest checking that out, just if nothing else to get a new idea of what kind of art. And then the last one is kind of a weird choice. This one's like my go-to. Like if I really have no, like I'm hitting a block and I have no creative juice, I will watch this movie and I'm immediately just in love, and it just really sparks my interest. So my background is actually a snippet from this film. It's an illustrated film that came out in 2014. It's part of a 3-part series that's titled the Irish Folklore Trilogy. And so I've kind of talked about this before, but I'm super interested in like folklore, legends, anything from like a anthropology kind of point of view. And so this film is based on the legend of Selkies, which is this legend that women go into the water and they turn into seals. And if mortals see them, they immediately fall in love. But this specific story follows a family that has been tragically touched by death, and they're all kind of getting their way through their grief. So Connor is the father, and the mother passed away during childbirth. And so Saoirse is the child that was born when the mother had passed away, and she doesn't talk. And then the brother Ben is just really angry at his sister because he feels like she is the reason why they don't have a mother anymore. And so you just get, it's really sad. And so the color palette that they chose really goes into these emotions. Something happens and Saoirse ends up finding this cloak that belonged to her mother, and she ends up finding out that she is a Selkie. So she goes into the ocean, she creates this relationship with these seals, and she realizes that her fate is to rescue these fairies from this goddess who is known as the Owl Witch. And so the journey just follows them and how her and Ben come together and create this relationship because they're helping each other out. And through that, they heal all of the anger and turmoil that's happening within their family. And it's just, oh, it's so beautiful. The illustrations, like, oh my gosh, you want to talk about like creativity. So like I totally stole some of the illustrations, created my own art. You can't see it, but so like every time I watch this film, I end up getting my paints out and just like doodling or doing something from it. It's beautiful. The soundtrack is beautiful. I love the writer, Tom, I think it's Tom Moore, and the illustrator. Just, I can't say enough. So as soon as we had this creativity one, I was like, I'm talking about even though nobody's probably going to understand it, but it's so good.
But I can put it on my to-watch list because I've never heard of it before.
It's so good.
Neither have I.
So have any of you guys heard of, shoot, now I'm not going to remember. The first one in the series was the secret of the kills. I don't know.
Kells. Yeah.
Kells.
Kells.
Yeah. So that's the first one in the series. And then if you look on Netflix, the third one in the series just came out.
Good to know.
But it is PG.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't watch it with super young children just because there is like this, it is a mythical, it gets a little bit dark. And so, I mean, use your discretion, you know your children, but like for she was 3 at the time, we kind of started watching it and I just kind of sensed that she was a little bit like, I don't know. And so I would just it's a PG, so.
Yeah. Nice. Thanks, Kristen. Things to add to my watch list.
So good.
And let's have Frances share her books that inspire her creativity.
Okay, my first one, I think I'll go to the Martha Stewart book. Martha Stewart is to me, was always so intimidating. I'd watch her cooking shows, but I was always afraid to try anything. And then I happened to be at the Troy Library, I think about 5 or 6 years ago, and they had their used book sale, and I happened to pick up a copy of Martha Stewart's Pies and Tarts. And like I was saying, I love desserts. So I picked up the book and I read through it, and I really liked the way the book was laid out. It wasn't as intimidating as I thought it would be because even though the desserts seemed very elaborate, she does a lot of tarts, and I had never baked with a tart pan, so that seemed a little tricky. But once I actually tried it, it seemed to be pretty easy for me. But the first one I tried, and I'm going to grab it here and show a picture, a little show and tell. The pear frangipane tart. I don't know if you can see that real well. So it's actually pears that are sauteed or poached pears, and they're set into this layer of it's almost like an almond paste, like what you have in a bear claw. And it's, when you bite into it, it's kind of that sweet and luscious. And she has recipes at the back of the book to do the pie shells. One is called pâté brisé, and it's very buttery, has a little bit of sugar in it. It's a little tricky to work with, and it took me a couple of times to get it just right because you have to, when you have more butter in the pie shells like that, you have to make sure it's chilled really well. And again, I was not experienced baking anything like a tart at all. All I ever made was apple pie, like my grandmother made, and the Pillsbury crust that you buy at the store. So I was pretty basic, but I've tried most of them in here. The next one is, I think this is the buttermilk pie. That was really good. If you're a fan of custard pies, even pumpkin pie, because it's a little custardy, something like this is really good and a little different. And she shows you, she really has step-by-step instructions as to how to do these beautiful little leaf patterns in the dough.
I want to
And oh yeah. Let's see. She has at the back. There's a lot of step-by-step instructions, which I liked. Sometimes I've looked at books on baking and cooking, and they seemed very vague. It's almost like they had little tricks, and they weren't sharing them with you. And she shows how to use the pie tarts for the smaller ones, the larger ones. And again, just a lot of detail. So she tells you explicitly how to work the dough. And then, kind of interspersed throughout all the chapters, she has little stories that she tells about where she first made the pie, or if she got it from a friend. Because I believe she started out catering. So her life is pretty interesting to me. So the more I read some of the stories and started doing some of these tarts, I really felt like, she seemed a lot warmer and more approachable to me.
And any book that has tips is good.
Very
good.
My
son and I attempted a cheesecake for the first time. And it just like listed like the ingredients, and you put them all together and you do your thing. And we did it, and it split. It had like little curds in it, and we were like, it just went wrong, and he felt really bad. And I was like, well, let's go to the interwebs and see what causes a cheesecake to split. And so we looked it up, and what we learned was that when you're doing cheesecake, you need all of your ingredients at room temperature. Mm-hmm. And they had told us that for the butter, so our butter was. But what we didn't know was like the eggs. Everything needs to be at room temperature. And so the next time we tried the same recipe again, had everything out at room temperature, and it turned out fabulous. So that's one of those things where when you said sometimes they don't put the tips in the book that you need to know. That was one of those things where I was like, well, if we had just known that, we would have done it. I appreciate books that will be like, hey, all your ingredients need to do this, or you need to do this.
Right. Yeah, they actually want you to be a success, not a failure.
I like that she has so many pictures too, because I will open up books, and if there's no pictures, I'm like, this is not worth my time.
No, I know.
But you need that visual representation of what is it supposed to look like.
Yeah. Yes. She even shows you how the dough should look like when you're working your butter in, that's what I really like, because I'm visual. I need to see it, so I really appreciated that. And yeah, it made me think when you were talking about your cheesecake, it made me think of that the British baking show, which I've been watching, and they give a challenge to the bakers with a real vague recipe. Yep. And most of them flop because it's like precise, and it's like chemistry, right? How that stuff works together.
How long to bake something for, or like how long to mix it up, or like things like that.
Yeah, I couldn't do that at all. It amazes me when they do come out and they're like, and here's your amazing, your babka bread that you were, and all we did was give you the ingredients. I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't do that. I need the tips. I need the, the weights and the measures and the cooking time.
Yeah. But I love the cooking show. Yeah. Oh yeah, me too. I've been watching that quite a bit. I've been binging it. Mm-hmm. So, and she has a lot. There's another book I have of hers. I couldn't find it in the house anywhere. I might have loaned it to somebody, but she has quite a few books on pies and tarts and cakes. So I think, to me, she's one of the best bakers, one of the best books too I've ever seen. And now my next one, and Kristen, when you were talking about Steal Like an Artist, this book, The Artist Way, kind of reminded me of that too. And I actually first read it when I was in college. They were offering it as a class, because it's a 12-week program to go through this book. And again, it's the same principle that it's not necessary for people who are artists or photographers. It can be, anyone in any walk of life, because we're all creative in some way. And it's really a book to kind of get you out of a rut if you find yourself in a creative rut, or if you have been doing one thing for many, many years and you want to maybe branch out and do something different, or if you've been, a photographer and now you want to get into film. It's really just a way to kind of jumpstart your creativity and to give you some confidence and some support throughout it. And it's broken down for 12 weeks. And the The first week is called Recovering a Sense of Safety. The second week is Recovering a Sense of Identity. The third is Recovering a Sense of Power. And I really like that. It talks a lot about synchronicity, things happening when they're meant to be. And also a lot of times I've had incidences where it's something synchronistic happen, but I fail to act on it because of my fears. And I think that happens to a lot of us. We're afraid sometimes to try something new. The fourth week is Recovering a Sense of Integrity. And it talks about buried dreams, reading deprivation, honest changes in your life. And each one she gives you an exercise to do, and you don't have to do all of them. Maybe just pick a few from them. The fifth week is Recovering a Sense of Possibility. Week 6 is Recovering a Sense of Abundance. And I really, really like that one. It talks a little bit about money, about luxury, the great creator, whomever we feel is the great creator in our life. Everybody has a different interpretation of that. Week 7 is Recovering a Sense of Connection. It talks a little bit about being able to listen, which is hard for me sometimes, perfectionism, which that can really, I think as artists, perfectionism is a hard one to get over. For me, it is too, because I never seem to think that something I'm working on is finished. I keep wanting to change it or redo it or rework it. And a lot of times that just becomes frustrating for me. So, there's times when I've just had to walk away from something and say it's done, it's finished. Then that's happened. Like last year I entered a couple of shows with some artwork, and I was really agonizing over that it wasn't good enough, and I almost didn't enter it. And my husband convinced me, to enter, and I actually won a ribbon, first place in the category. So I was really excited about that. The week 8 is called Recovering a Sense of Strength. Week 9 is Recovering a Sense of Compassion. Week 10 is Recovering a sense of self-protection. Week 11 is Recovering a Sense of Autonomy. And week 12 is Recovering a Sense of Faith. And Julia Cameron, the author, I think started out as a writer, and she also became a film producer. And she is also, I think she's gone to maybe some 12-step programs, and I think that's kind of why this is broken down that way. She actually started this course, I think, in LA, and she opened it up to people as maybe like a college course to kind of jumpstart their creativity. One of the primary principles of this is to do something called morning pages. And she talks about that in the very beginning, and that's just writing stream of consciousness. And the concept is to get all of this, all the thoughts out of your head, all your demons, your spiders, get everything written down, anything that might be holding you back, and get it down on paper. And you can tear it up, you can burn it, whatever you want to do, or you can keep it just to reread it sometimes. And her thinking is that it gets all of the stuff that holds us back, our thinking, our negative thinking, or our thinking of lack, or I can't do this. You get it down on paper, and then you can start your day with a clear head. And she talks about doing it all the time and keeping it as a practice to do it for the rest of your life. I found that when I journaled like that, when I did morning pages, it really was really helpful for me, but I have trouble keeping up with it. And I think a lot of us do. But when I did it, it actually worked. And there was something else here too. Well, yeah, she talks about the morning pages. There are some, I remember, I think the last time I did this book, there was a week where you had to cut yourself off from all media, emails, phones, social media. And I know that's hard to do because we all have jobs and we have to read our work emails. But I really thought that it gave me more opportunity to think creatively when I wasn't distracting myself, looking on my phone or on Facebook or Twitter. So that seemed to be very, very helpful.
think that's
And
advice for all of us.
Mhm.
oh yeah,
Even if it's
Yeah.
not complete and total, just to be able to take the deep breath and walk away and
Mhm.
go and do something else.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to just keep flicking through there. And you're right, your
Oh,
brain
yeah.
needs a chance to adjust and recharge and think about other things.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, I've done this, I think probably about 3 times. I could not find my original book. I believe I loaned it to someone. So I'm gonna have to find out who has it. But
You
I
need
put
to
a lot
start
of
having
notes
a
and
checkout.
directions. I know. Yeah, really. I think I know who has it. But
She's coming
I-
for you, whoever you are.
I really wanted to do this as not like, well, kind of like a book club. I thought it might kind of actually work that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I can get our friends group to maybe cover the cost of the books, and it does come, they do have a morning pages journal, but you don't have to get this fancy. You can just use any kind of paper or get your own cool journal and maybe do some doodlings, or you can actually write your ideas in it along with your morning pages, which I think is really good. But yeah, maybe that's something I'll do in the future. So
Nice. Thank you, Frances.
you're welcome.
Let's have Jen share her books that inspire her creativity next.
Okay, so I'm going to start with Rosie, Revere, Engineer, which is actually a kid's book, but I love it because the whole story of Rosie is she likes to create stuff, and she creates these crazy contraptions, and they don't always work. And so she keeps them very much to herself, because one time she made something and her uncle laughed at her, and it just broke her little heart. So it gets to the end, and her great aunt, or her great great aunt, is coming to visit, and she just loves her great aunt so much, and she can't wait to show her this thing she's invented, this cheese copter. And it starts to go off, and then it crashes, and Rosie is just heartbroken, and I'm never gonna do it again. And I'm gonna story time you, because I love this message. She turned around to leave, but then great Aunt Rose grabbed hold of young Rosie and pulled her in close and hugged her and kissed her and started to cry. "You did it! Hooray! It's the perfect first try. The great flop is over. It's time for the next." Young Rosie was baffled, embarrassed, perplexed. "I failed," said dear Rosie. "It's just made of trash. Didn't you see the cheese copter crashed?" "Yes," said her great aunt. "It crashed. That is true. But first, it did just what it needed to do. Before it crashed, Rosie, before that, it flew. Your brilliant first flop was a raging success. Come on, let's get busy and on to the next." She handed a notebook to Rosie Revere, who smiled as her aunt, and it all became clear. Life might have its failures, but that was not it. The only true failure can come if you quit. And as somebody who's not crazy creative, like I've done a lot of little things. Like I tried to knit, it was awful. I need that reminder. Okay, you might not be good at this right away, and that's okay. We did, my son's school did a paint and canvas kind of thingy earlier in this year, and they're 7 and 9. Their artwork was not fabulous, and my 7-year-old was so distraught by this. He said, "I thought I might be an artist, and I'm no good." I said, "Harry, you've never painted before. That looks good. Like this is the first time you've ever done this. No one comes out of the gate amazing." So I love this book because, yeah, it's a kid's book, but I'm an adult and I'm still taking messages from it. Oh yeah. It's okay. You have to try. And it's okay if your first time isn't great. Do it again. No one becomes an expert overnight. So I think that's such a good one for creativity, because it just reminds you that keep trying, keep practicing, keep doing it. Maybe you're not going to be the world's best painter, but maybe you're good and you like it and it makes you happy. So
You're not going to be the world's best quitter.
Exactly.
We don't want that is,
or you might be. I don't know.
Nice.
I don't know who does that. But that's Rosie Revere Engineer. If you haven't read that, this whole series is amazing. There's Iggy Peck Architect, Ada Twist Scientist, and something in Inez President. I can't remember the full title on that one, but they're super, super cute. But Rosie Revere is my favorite because I just love her cheese copter.
Yeah.
She learns that, you know what, it's okay. Failures happen. It's what we do with them.
Yes.
So that's my fun first book. My second one is World of Geek Craft. Step-by-step instructions for 25 super cool projects. And I actually checked this book out. My kids got real into it. My kids are the source, apparently, of all my creativity. My kids got real into perler beads for a while. And there's a couple of perler bead things in here, or at least one perler bead thing here. But I love this one because even though, full disclosure, I have yet to do anything in it, I want to. So it does inspire my creativity. My favorites, and I like that it's broken down. So let me find one of my favorites. This one, I don't know if it's gonna show up. Mario Magritte. So it's I hate it when it does that. Okay, well, you can see parts of it.
I can see it now.
So this is basically a cross stitch. Which cross stitch, another thing that I keep telling myself, like, I think I would like this. Maybe I should do it. But this one is the take on the Magritte poster with the pipe. You know, this is not a pipe, but it's the
I thought I saw. Okay,
it's the
I thought I
Mario.
saw that on the cover.
If I put it right in front of my face, does it work? No. Darn background. It's the Mario. It's the Mario pipe with the whatever. So cross stitch. That's something that I think it would be super fun to learn how to do, and I think that one's funny. But I like that it breaks it down what you need. It gives you all the tools. It gives you all the materials. And then it has step-by-step instructions. And some of them are harder. Some of them, there's a couple things in here that are, you know, involve sewing and sewing machines. And then there's a few that are really simple. Hey, you need these, you know, these 5 things to create this. And they're all super nerdy. Needle felted solar system mobile. Like, I'm all about that.
Okay. I was interested
economic
before, but
wooden mouse pad. Like there's a
Right.
couple of like different bags.
Oh,
There's a couple of different cross stitch things. There's a secret message quilt. So it actually
ooh.
it's quilting, but it gives you the pattern, and the pattern is, I can't remember exactly what this spells out, but it's like there's like a secret message sort of hidden in the pattern of the quilt. It's like Morse code.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, so it's super nerdy, and I love that. Like I said, sadly I haven't done any of it, but it makes me want to. Yeah. So World of Geek Craft makes me want. It inspires my creativity because it makes me actually want to try to do things and maybe fail at them.
That's right. And
But
that's
I will learn
okay.
a lesson, and next time I'll be better. Yeah.
Nice. Thank you, Jen. Fun titles. And Regina, if you would be willing to share your books that inspire your creativity.
Sure. I will say one thing about that I find with creativity, I'm not always good at just coming up with something from scratch. I'm not really that type of creative person. I compile things, like even we talk a lot about creativity and, you know, baking and cooking. I always joke at home that I'm a good assembler. I'm not always good at something from scratch, but I can kind of put some things together. So I think that's where, like with sewing and that, I kind of like sewing because there is kind of a guide or a way to do it. Once you learn that, you can kind of riff or make your own things, but you kind of have an idea behind it. And it seems like everything in my world kind of one thing leads to another, which is, I think, the beauty of creativity. Once you start getting into something or you realize what you like and then just explore that, it will guide you and lead you to other things. In a previous life, one of my other jobs, I worked with patterns and sewing and worked with an automotive supplier, so did car seats and things like that. And that led me to teaching at Wayne State University and taught a class on CAD for apparel design, which kind of combined like my first love of sewing, then with my job. And then I went back to school for library science. And so then all of a sudden here I am, library science, teaching a class. And so it's like everything in my world kind of keeps coming together like that. So one of my books that I chose was Make Your Own Idea Book, which I don't know if you guys can see it. But in here, they talk about they actually make books. There's some pictures in here where they actually make books on their own. And so they actually will sew things together. And I wound up making some things for some people for Christmas, some little books and things like that. And like I was saying before, I love ephemera. Anything from a magazine article, a picture I will see, a flyer, bookmarks. It's like I hate to throw anything away. Jen was laughing at me the other day. It was like we got these little baggies from one of our coworkers. I couldn't throw it away, but I wound up putting it in my journal or in one of my books so I could have a little pocket. So I'm always like compiling things. So this is a great book. They show you materials that you might need along with tools, but then they just show you like ways that you can use, like you can make a book with just ideas in it, just general ideas, whether it's cooking ideas, whether it's a Christmas book for Christmas gifts, just anything with inspiration. And so I love the idea of all those worlds coming together. It's like my love of sewing, my love of books, my love of, just collecting things. But I love that, travel, they have all kinds of, there's even a section for genealogy, which genealogy can sound kind of humdrum, but people get very creative with it. We see a lot of different things with that. So that's cool.
It's kind of like a physical version of Pinterest.
Exactly.
It's almost what it sounds like. It's like you can actually, it's a tactile Pinterest.
It's a good description.
And it just taps into so many different things. And when, like Frances was talking about journaling and like you just put things down on paper to get ideas or to try to remember your ideas. It's like the whole idea of the idea book is that exact thing. It's a way to pin your ideas so that you have a manifestation of it and can go back to it. And I love the idea of having a book or a memory of things that we collect that we don't really want to throw away, but we can like make a beautiful thing of it and look back through it later and have a memory of like, oh yeah, I found that at some bookstore that I was at, 3 years ago in Ann Arbor, stuff like that.
Yeah, love that.
And then my other book is called No Excuses Art Journaling, and it's actually making time for creativity. And it's kind of the same thing, but it gets a little bit more in depth on actually journaling and even creating planner. I've gotten kind of more interested in bullet journaling and actually doing more physical writing and journaling this year, trying to like add another level of that type of creativity place to put ideas. So they actually, like, this book is laid out really well because they actually give you ideas for each month if you want. They have a different theme, like for January is breathe, and they will actually give you, like, if you want, you can do a color, you can follow their color scheme, and they actually give you different things like what are the flowers or the different stones of the month. They give you writing prompts. They give you ideas of things to write about, and they actually give you, I've never seen this before, maybe you guys are more familiar, but they actually give you, it says find your comfort zone, and it actually has a questionnaire, and it sounds so basic. Things like what's your favorite color, what are things that you dislike, what magazines do you read, your favorite author, your favorite poem, what kind of music do you listen to, which sound kind of basic when you go to put things together that you like, but it's so much more intentional and intention behind it, because if you really think about it and really jot it down or really like put it together, like, oh yeah, I like this color, or I like this, and feel okay about it, and you realize as you put things together that you like, you're just going to like all of a sudden start creating things and making things that you like, versus like trying to follow a guide or see something that you think other people do or what's supposed to be correct. You're just following your own inspiration of what you like, and so it kind of helps you be creative that way.
I have not seen that before.
I like that.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think that about covers it. I've probably forgotten about 5 things I wanted to say, but that's okay.
I think we all do that. Thank you so much, Regina. Those are fascinating. And now I will go ahead and share mine. And I'm going to throw the covers up here real quick, and then I'm going to take my background down because I have copies of all of these here. So the first one I'm going to talk about is probably maybe the silliest in my group of books, but it is Dancing with Cats. And it was a serendipitous find, because it was one of those that you get when you're working in the library system and you look at it and go, what is Dancing with Cats? I have to know more. So I've got a copy of that. I'll share some of that with you. And then the Cookie Dough Lovers Cookbook, which is exactly what it's talking about. It's cookie dough and things you can make with cookie dough, but it's safe cookie dough because there's no eggs in any of the in the recipes. And then the last one is Poke the Box, which I feel fits in with a lot of what we've talked about today, which is about just try stuff. Try. If you fail, that's okay, because you're going to learn from the failure too, and other people are going to learn from that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and hopefully turn off my background here so that when I hold the books up, you can see it. How do I turn it off? Oh, it's not. Oh, I think I got to hit apply. There you go. All right, now you can see my super boring wall behind me. All right, so Dancing with Cats is amazing. When we first found this, we did not realize, I'm 99% sure now that it is actually a spoof book. But when we first looked at it, we did not know that because it is so well done. Like these, usually like you read a satire book and you're like, it's pretty evident right away. No, you know what, and if, I don't know if the glare is going to be too, but 9 lives, 4 paws, and all the right moves. Those kitties. And these people, if it's a spoof, they were taking it seriously because there's a foreword and a preface and an introduction. Like this wasn't just something they were like, you know what would be funny? Taking pictures with cats in the air and people dancing with them. They were serious about their creativity. So whichever way it is, I don't care because I love it. This man, hopefully you'll be able to see it and the glare's not too good. Bad. That man makes me so happy. There's such happiness there. I don't know what they did to that cat to get it in that and how they photoshopped it. But the cat doesn't look mad about it.
No.
You'd think the cat would look real ticked off, but it doesn't.
My cat would eat my face if I tried to dance with it.
Tried to do that. And there's all sorts of different forms of dancing. There's a little girl ballet dancing.
Oh.
It is really fun.
There's a belly dancer in here.
I gotta see that.
There's so many different ones. And like I said, now I'm 99% sure this is a spoof book. But dang, that took a lot of work and creativity to put this together. I can't, oh, there she is. There's the belly dancing lady with her cat, who's also getting into it. So I don't know. I just think that, and I will say the day that we discovered this book, and please note, librarians do not spend all their time looking at books, but oh my goodness, we were all enjoying and laughing and having such a good time because not only are the pictures awesome, all the text in here is awesome too. So it's fabulous. Dancing with Cats, available at your library. You should check.
That cover photo just kills me.
I love it. I love it because, however they took these pictures, somebody had to be doing it. Like, she's got to be over there like, okay, how would a cat dance? I just love it. Cookie Dough Lovers Cookbook. I am a person, I'm that person that if you're cooking with me, is going to slap your hand if you try and eat the cookie dough. Because at some point in my life, and I'm pretty sure I'm blaming it on NPR, I heard an interview with a woman who had salmonella poisoning. And it was awful. It wasn't just like food poisoning where it's like, oh, I was kind of sick for 24 hours and I got over it. Like she was sick for a long time. So now I'm a little paranoid. And so my child, if there's eggs in the batter, you're not allowed to eat the batter, not even a little bit. And then, of course, my husband comes over and is like, oh, because he loves cookie dough and can't resist. So when I saw this, I was so excited because it gives you various cookie doughs, chocolate chip, brownies, peanut butter, chocolate chip, sugar cookie doughs that you can make that don't have eggs in them. So also, I don't know if there's an egg allergy out there, but if you had an egg allergy, this would also be an awesome book for that. Mm-hmm. So, and it's fabulous. My personal favorite in here is a chocolate chip cookie dough sandwich. So it's 2 chocolate chip cookies with chocolate chip cookie dough in the middle. So it's basically
Wow.
like eating 3 cookies. It's delicious.
Sounds amazing.
It's amazing. It really is. And Tony has
I would
made
do
them
that.
for us several times now. And every time I feel sort of bad eating it, but it's so delicious. So there's lots of yummy things in there. The recipes, it's got pictures. It's got pictures of
Oh,
everything
wow.
in there.
Cookie dough cinnamon roll.
Okay, and I'm a cookbook
stuffed
nerd.
cinnamon rolls.
I love that
God.
it's spiral bound because those are so much easier to work
Yeah.
with in the kitchen.
Yes. So it
They
lays
are.
flat. So
Yes.
if you just want to make cookie dough, like I just made my husband peanut butter chocolate chip cookie dough, just the cookie dough, and gave it to him for his birthday because he likes cookie dough that much. You can do that too, and it's got all the variations in there. So Cookie Dough Lovers Cookbook. Love it. Delicious.
You guys should make
Hey,
things
no
out of your
salmonella
books
boy's name.
and send them to us.
Yeah, I should make one. Cookie dough stuffed cinnamon rolls.
I'll take a pie tart.
Yeah.
And then my last one is this book called Pokes the Box by Seth Godin. And Seth Godin is reasonably well known in the workplace motivational world. And Pokes the Box, I actually made all of my staff read. Probably, were you there, Kristen, at the point when did you have to read this? It was probably 10 years ago. It's been a while. And you can see like this is the workbook that you can get for free online to go with it. Yeah. So, and it's a workbook that goes through, and really the whole point of the book is to start something. It doesn't matter what. Start something. This one is specifically workplace related. So they tell you, look around where you're working. Where do you see the things that frustrate you, the things that you have problems with, the things that could be done better? Is it going to cost anything for you to try and do it differently? Then let's do it differently. You know, start speaking up and start doing things different. What are you passionate about? What are you excited about? How can you bring those into your job every day? It's super simple. It's really big text. So you can literally, I don't know if we have the audio of it, but you could literally probably read it in an hour or less. And we went through it in a year. But I just love the message of start something that you've never done. Just try it, because that gives you energy in your life where you're like, it's not the same old. I'm doing something different. To don't be afraid to fail. Now, because it's a workplace one, it does have like a failure assessment thing. Like, can you, if you were to fail, could you afford to do so? You know, so if it's something that's going to cost your workplace $50, can your workplace afford $50? Yeah, we can maybe do that. So you talk it over with supervisor and they go, yeah, we can do that. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And one of the things I think that was the result of this at our branch was starting to move our collection around in ways that may be more user-friendly for our patrons. So doing some genre shelving and things like that, that cost us nothing but time. So it took staff time to go through and say, you know what, people really love inspirational romance. One of the questions that we get asked a lot are, where are your inspirational books at? So they're already stickered. Collections has already done that for us. So we pulled them out and put them all together in one spot. And if it was awful and people hated it, or it was too hard when we were pulling books for holds, we can switch it back. So when you did the assessment, we can afford to fail if it fails. And staff came up with all sorts of things. It was sort of a permission slip to say, go and try this, you know, just run over there, let me know what you're doing, and then let's see what happens. But I think personally, it's important to try things. You know, listening to you all talk about the art journaling and things like that, I'm like, I got to try more. I get so stuck in my routines and feel like, oh, I don't have time for that. Stop making excuses. Go and try it. If I fail, like Rosie Revere, that's okay. That's part of life. You learn from it. So those are my three books.
Perfect first attempt.
That's right.
Yeah.
So those are my three books. So thank you to all of you for participating. Thank you for all of you who listened. And next week we are sharing, I'm trying to remember what it is. Let me go in and see because I'm not remembering off the top of my head.
Books.
Next week, we are talking about books that transport us.
Oh.
So it could be transporting to a different place, a different time, but books that take you away. So we'll be sharing those next time. Thanks again, everybody. Bye.